So can you kind of get how the mystical understanding of sin is a little bit different than the fire and brimstone rabbis, than the traditional way of sin? Because the sin is saying, you're sinning, you're going to go to hell. But along come the Kabbalists and say, when you sin, you're putting God in hell. Gewalt. Where does your soul come from? The Tanya says that the soul, the Nefesh Elokit, is emanating from the last Hey of Hashem's name. Because remember, it's like a chain. It's like a chain. So there's Ein Sof. Energy flows into the Yud, flows into the Hey, flows into the Vav, flows into the Hey. And then that last Hey of God's name is what we call the Shekhinah. It's what we call the Malchut. It's the feminine, you can, so to speak, say the mother of creation. Also, you can also say it's the mouth of creation, that when the Torah says God spoke and created the world, what does that mean? It means that this energy, letters, emanated from God's mouth. What is God's mouth? That is the Malchut, which is also the Shekhinah. And now this energy is now emanating into the world and gives energy and life force and vitality to all of creation. Every single living being in creation must constantly receive this energy, this vitality from the Shekhinah, from the Malchut, okay? So it doesn't matter if you're a tree or if you're a bird or if you're a person, we are all constantly receiving energy from, so to speak, the mother of creation through up the Malchut, which you can also say is God's mouth, okay? And so this energy now is in a continuous flow. I want you to imagine now that from the most internal part of you, where your soul is, I want you to imagine that there's this, so to speak, rope. He calls it a rope, but I want you to think of like this channel. Okay, there's this channel that is emanating out of you and it reaches, where's the other side of that rope? The other side of the rope is rooted in the source of the Shekhinah, of the divine presence, of that Malchut. So you can kind of think of yourself or your energy is being received. It's flowing from the source of creation, which is that last Hey, which is the Malchut, which is the Shekhinah. This is like kind of, so to speak, like the energy center for all of creation. And then that energy now is flowing in many, 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 many different channels to all living beings, including ourselves. So if you just want just kind of like a fun exercise, I'm sure everybody here are energy masters, but just something for us lay people to also do is just to put our awareness and try and just become aware that there's this energy that is constantly flowing from the source of creation, which is the Malchut, the Shekhinah, and it is constantly flowing into us, giving us life at every given moment. So the Zohar calls that's like a rope. So there's one end of the rope, which is inside of me. The other end of the rope is rooted in the Shekhinah. He calls it a rope, and he'll explain why he calls it a rope in a second, but it's really this channel, this conduit for this life force and energy to flow. Are you guys with me so far? Chevra, say l'chaim, come on. Okay. All right, so we have this constant flow of energy that is being represented by this rope, so to speak, that each one of us is always connected through this rope, which, by the way, the Baal Shem Tov and the Arizal also themselves teach us techniques to be able to, so to speak, shift our consciousness and to be able to travel up this channel, to be able to travel up this rope, to be able to go all the way back up to the source through all the different levels. That's what the Baal Shem Tov and the Mekubalim call aliyat neshama, soul elevation.
How do they come down?
That's how they do this. What?
How do they come down after being in such a high space?
Their wife tells them they have to do the dishes. That's usually how it happens. Okay. You can think about it as this continuous breath of life. Hashem, what is this rope, the energy? Hashem is continuously breathing into us life.
It's a vital cord.
Ma?
It's a vital cord.
It's a vital cord. It's a vital cord, so to speak, but
Start with the
let's talk from Hashem's perspective down. One of the ideas in Chassidut, in Kabbalah, is to be able to shift our perspective, to, so to speak, get out of the limitations and the boundaries of human consciousness and to start to be able to experience reality from Hashem's perspective. Yeah? When we're always relating to things from below, from our perspective, we will inherently be limited by our understandings. And so what Kabbalah is trying to do is to be able to shift us to be able to see it from Hashem's perspective. So from Hashem's perspective, there's Ein Sof, the Yud, the Hey, the Vav, and then the last Hey. So we're starting from the last Hey. We're not even talking about what's beyond the last Hey. Just from you say the source of creation is just from the last Hey, before it reaches the created realities down here below us. But what is before the Hey, we're not even going there. We're not even going there. So when we say the source of creation, we're really just talking about the Sheena. We're just talking about the Hey. Okay? So from here, there's this continuous breath of life, this breath of divine energy that is continuously emanating from Hashem's mouth, so to speak. And it's continuously flowing here. And he says like this. So just like when a regular person is blowing that breath out, okay? If you were to take like a board or something and put it in the middle, right? What would happen to the breath? It's going to get cut off, right? If you're trying to continuously blow out there, if you put something in the middle, that breath is going to get cut off, right? So he says, but how can that be spiritually speaking? What could possibly come in between Hashem's breath to cut off the life of any given living being? So he says this is what we call avonot. This is called avon, sin. What is sin? Sin is the only thing in the world that can actually be chotzetz, separate, divide from this flow, to so to speak, cut off this continuous flow of Hashem's light. However, this is going to get a little scary now, okay? But up until what we just said right now, the Baal HaTanya says this is what was happening in the time of the temple. In the time of the temple, meaning that there was the Sheena was revealed, that the life force of all of Israel was just apparent. It was revealed. You could feel it. You could sense it. And so if a person did something that they were guilty of karet, they automatically get cut off from the life force, and that's it. And that's it. What happened after the destruction of the temple? The Baal HaTanya explains that the last Hey, the Sheena, the source of life of all of creation, when the temple was built, she was in her home. Where does the Shekhina live? She lives in a world called Atzilut. What is the world of Atzilut? The world of Atzilut is a world of only good, of only Hashem's light. There can exist no evil in the world of Atzilut. So when the temple was built and the Shekhina was in the world of Atzilut, all of the energy was emanating directly from Hashem, and goodness was flowing to the world. Shefa and abundance was flowing into the world from the Shekhina. However, after the temple was destroyed, what happened to the Shekhina? She went into exile. What does that mean? It means that the Shekhina now was, so to speak, kicked out of her proverbial Garden of Eden. And now she descends out of the world of Atzilut down level after level after level after level into what we call the world of Klipot. What is the world of Klipot? If the world of Atzilut, which is the world of Kedusha, what is the essence of the word of Kedusha? Kedusha is Einod Milvado. There is nothing other than Hashem. If that's the world of Kedusha, the world of Atzilut, then what is the world of Klipot? That is the world of separation, of duality, of ego. If in the world of Kedusha, Einod Milvado, what's in the world of Klipa? Einod Milvadi. There is no one, what? There is no one but me. Or what the Mekubalim say, Ana Emloch. It's all about me. I am the boss here. I am the ruler. I am the one that's in charge. That in the world of Klipot, we feel ourselves to be independent entities. Completely independent, meaning that we do not need to receive Hashem's light, meaning I can receive light and I don't need Hashem, so to speak. And so you have two total opposites. You have Kedusha and you have Klippa. Kedusha is the world of complete unity. Ein od milvado, there's nothing but Hashem. And only total oneness and total nullification to Hashem's reality, versus the world of Klippa. Klippa is the world of independent existence. Or we could just simply say the world of ego, self-awareness and self-independence. Self-independence, okay? Now, independence can be a good thing. However, in the mystical sense, this is not a good thing, because as soon as a person believes and thinks that they do not need to receive their energy from Hashem, they're in trouble. They're in trouble. And so after the destruction of the temple, what happened? The Shekhinah went into exile. And remember, she is the source of energy. She is the source of creation. And so to speak, think of now that the Shekhinah has been now captured by the forces of ego, by the forces of evil. And now they are able to draw energy from her and to be able to become very strong and very powerful. Basically, that means that they now are able to act, so to speak, in an independent manner, And so when the Sheena goes into exile, that means now that the forces of evil become very, very strong. The forces of ego become very, very, very strong. And now there's the possibility to completely go against Hashem. So if you ask, why is there so much evil in the world? What are we actually up against? All of the evil that exists in the world, the only reason it exists, the only possibility that it's able to act in the way that it's acting is because it's receiving energy from the Shekhinah that it's captured, so to speak. It's prisoner. And they're drawing energy, they're feeding energy from her. Okay? And unfortunately, what caused the Shekhinah to descend into Galut, to give the powers of evil, the forces of evil energy? But we have to make it a little bit more personal. What? Transgression. That's right. It means that collectively speaking, when Am Yisrael is in a state of transgression and sin, then the Shekhinah, so to speak, God himself is being forced to feed the forces of evil, even though he doesn't want to. So to speak, we're forcing God to give energy to something he doesn't want to give energy to. And the Baal Tanya, not here, but in other places of the Tanya, what's that like, he says? The mashal, it's kind of gross. I hope nobody had breakfast. It's like taking the head of the king, and sticking his head into a dirty toilet full of absolute grossness, okay? Taking something so majestic, something so exalted, something so divine and pristine, and sticking their head in the toilet. That's what happens every time, collectively and individually, a person does a sin. So can you kind of get how the mystical understanding of sin is a little bit different than the fire and brimstone rabbis, than the traditional way of sin? Because the sin is saying, you're sinning, you're going to go to hell. But along come the Kabbalists and say, when you sin, you're putting God in hell. Gewalt. Right? And so now it's not just about me. Because you know what? If I'm an angry teenager, I can say, fine, I don't care. I'll go to hell. All my friends are there anyway. That's right. But it's no fun anyway. But from the mystical perspective of sin, what are you doing? It's not about you. It's not about you. It's about God. You've taken God himself, the Shekinah, divine presence, and you've put her in hell. She is now being forced to give energy to all of the forces of evil. Now, how does that make you feel? Right? When we shift our mind, when we shift our awareness out of self-centeredness It's not just about me anymore. Now it's about Hashem. Now it's about the Sheena. Now it's about Am Yisrael. Now it's about the world. That the state of the world is due to my actions. That's a much more, I think, gewalt way to look at sin. It's not about me, but it's about what's happening to the world. And if I have some compassion on the world, then I will be much more inspired to want to change my ways. Does that make sense? Are you guys hearing this? This is very, very critical to understand the kind of mystical idea of Teshuva, okay? Which is what Teshuv Hey really means, okay? What is Teshuv Hey? When I'm returning the Hey, what am I returning here? I'm not returning my soul to God, which is, it is correct in a sense, but I hear from a much, much more deeper perspective, from a much more altruistic perspective, from a much more, what's the opposite of self-centered? More universe-centered, what? Selfless, but when I'm seeing creation from what? From a transcendent place, what am I returning? Teshuv Hey is returning the Hey. The Hey is not just my soul, I'm returning the Sheena. I'm returning God back up to his place. I'm freeing God from the clutches of evil. Right? Gewalt, how could we even say such a thing, right? If it wasn't written in the Tanya, I would have my rabbinical license revoked. God is trapped in evil. God is trapped in the dungeons of Hamas and all of the other enemies and all of the other evildoers in the world. It's God that is trapped, God that's a prisoner. So when I do tshuva, what am I returning? Teshuv Hey, I'm returning the Hey, the lower Hey, the Shekhinah. I'm freeing the Shekhinah from the clutches of evil. So you want to know the state of Israel? Super easy. Just turn on the news. You want to know what the state of the Shekhinah is? Turn on the news. Okay? Whatever news network you're watching, whatever information you're getting from, okay? But you want to see what the state of the Shekhinah is. You want to see what the state of Am Yisrael as a collective whole is. Just see what's happening in the world. And when we start to look at the world like this, we stop pointing fingers outside, and we start to do real cheshbon nefesh and say, wow, what actually is happening outside is being affected by every single thing that I think, say, and do at every given moment. Oh, right? Let's take some responsibility. So long as I'm stuck in my own little world, which that's what the Yetzer Hara wants you to think, it thinks that you're only responsible yourself, you're only doing what you do, and it's only affecting your reality, and it's only affecting your life. And okay, you know what, if I speak Lashon Hara, if I think negative thoughts about myself, or about my husband, or about my neighbor, or whatever it is, okay, you know what, fine, it's a personal issue. At best, it's a community issue. Baal Tanya is like, no. This is a cosmic issue. This is a cosmic issue, right? And so it gives us much, much more motivation, much more awareness to think about the consequences of our actions. Because it's not just about me anymore. It's not just about me anymore. I want to return the Shekhinah back to her rightful place. I want to do something good for Am Yisrael. I want to do something for the world. And that begins by making sure that what I think, say, and do at every given moment is drawing from the positive light of Kedusha. That's what essentially the Teshuv Hey is. I'm returning the source of life out of the realm of klipot. I'm disconnecting it from its source of life. And when you disconnect the klipot from the source of life, what happens to the klipot? They die. They die. They die. Which is kind of like, I mean, you know, maybe we should be like talking about this a little bit more. But we're so busy, you know, trying to fight this external war, right? With physical guns and bombs and planes and all kinds, you know, at the political level. And it's just silly. You people are silly. Okay? We could save so much money. Billions and billions of dollars. Just get everybody to do tshuva. Just get everybody to the Teshuva. Think about what we could do with all those billions. Crazy, right? V'zeu Teshuv Hey tatami bichnat hagalut. That's what it means to return the hay from exile. V'shav Hashem Elokecha et shvutecha. And he brings the quote from the prophet says, V'shav Havaya Elokecha et shvutecha. So how would you V'shav Hashem et shvutecha? So most people will translate mistakenly V'shav Hashem, and Hashem will return the people from the exile. But that's not what it says. If the literal saying is V'shav Hashem, what does V'shav Hashem mean? And God returned. And God returned with the people. Et shvutecha, with the people. It's God that is in prison. It is God that is in exile. The energy and life force of creation is feeding all of the klipot, all of the forces of ego and evil in the world. And when we do tshuva, we are able to restore godliness to its source, to be able to allow goodness and justice and righteousness and unity and love to flow in the world.